Yeah, hi there. These comments are for Anu, and you're one of my students at my 7-step system to pass the TOEFL IBT, my online TOEFL course. And let's take a look at your email, and your email is a little bit complicated, so I thought it would be better if I talked to you in person or on video as opposed to writing down my response. So here's what you say. Hi Michael, this is your student Anulikene. You always comment on my delivery pauses. If I talk too fast without catching a breath, the flow may cease because I am a stammerer. But if I talk slowly, I do not stammer as such. Is it better to state at the beginning of my speech that I stammer? Please advise. Also when writing, is it safe to use words like won't, can't, or couldn't? Okay, let's get to the first part of your question. Now, what I'm saying is, you need to pause. I need to pause. Native and non-native speakers alike need to pause when they're speaking. So what I'm saying is you should pause at appropriate times of your speech. Now, what you want to do is go over to my lessons. They're called thought groups and blending. I think it's my TOEFL pronunciation lessons 41 through 44. And in those lessons, it defines, number one, what a thought group is, and then it defines what your tone should be at the end or beginning of certain thought groups. It also will tell you when you need to pause. For example, typically we pause after every 4 to 5 stressed syllables. We have a short pause, we have another 4 to 5 stressed syllables, and another pause. What you don't want to do is pause after every word or every other word. That can cause you trouble with the speaking section of the test. Okay, so now let's go back to the question again. So you say, if I talk fast, I become a stammerer. If I talk slowly, I do not. Okay, so if you have a choice between talking more slowly or talking faster, and talking faster does cause you to stammer or stutter, then probably you want to talk slowly if you have to choose. Now, if you know you talk slowly, then you have to think about your strategies during the independent speaking tasks. For example, if you talk faster and you can speak, get ideas out there, you probably should give maybe 3 reasons why you agree or disagree with a statement. Or if you're choosing between 2 things, give maybe 3 reasons why you think, for example, studying in the library is better than studying in your apartment, right? Now, if you speak more slowly, then you may choose to only discuss 2 ideas and then give appropriate details for those 2 things. So that's kind of what you want to try to experiment with at my website. Is you have to think about not just how quickly you can speak, how many ideas can you get into the 45 seconds, and make sure that you're giving appropriate examples to support those things. So it's just kind of a trial and error type of a thing there. Now, I had a student last year, Anulikene, who was a stammerer, a stutterer, and unfortunately he did really well on all sections of the test. I think he got 106, but on the speaking he got 22 because he does stutter, and that interferes a little bit in his ability to be understood. But to me, his speaking was really, really good. It's just that he stuttered. And this is just my own opinion here. The TOEFL may disagree with me on this, but I don't think somebody should be graded lower because they stutter or they stammer, because that's kind of something you can't control. I mean, a lot of people, even in their own language, may stutter. So to me, it's not really fair to grade somebody lower because of a stutter. That's not really a English proficiency problem. That's more of a physiological problem. I mean, I don't know exactly why people stutter, but anyway, you just do the best you can. That's all you can do, right? So I've been listening to a lot of your speaking tasks, and it's actually quite easy to understand what you're saying. So again, if you're comfortable with the slower speed and you think you'll have better pronunciation when you do that, just make sure that you maybe bring up 2 good ideas in those independent speaking tasks instead of 3, but make sure that you really specifically give some good details to support those ideas. And that should probably help you get going in the right direction. Okay, now the next question says, please advise. And remember that advise, when you use it as a verb, it's A-D-V-I-S-E, not advice the way that you wrote it. You wrote A-D-V-I-C-E, and that is considered a noun. So sometimes we'll have 2 words, one ends in a C and one ends in an S, and that can make the difference between a noun or a verb in English. This is what's called a word choice type issue. But anyway, going back to your question. I would say, first of all, I would hope that no one, when you do a independent practice test, independent task or integrated task for the TOEFL, I would hope they would not score you lower because you use contractions, right? So is it safe to use words like won't, can't, or couldn't? So I'm going to say that if I were you, I would not use contractions in formal writing and for the TOEFL test. Probably they will not score you lower because of it. However, it's safe. I think it would be better not to use them just to make sure. Now remember that using contractions has a way of making the writing informal. That's how it affects the tone. Other things we do can make writing informal. For example, using the first person I or using the second person you. Right? So the question is, if you want to keep the writing at a more formal level, right? For example, the independent writing task is asking you more about your personal experience, right? So I would think that's a less formal type of writing than the integrated writing task, in which case you're summarizing and integrating information from a reading passage in a lecture. So my own personal opinion, if you just want my personal opinion, I think contractions aren't as big of a problem in the independent writing task because that's a less formal type of writing, but contractions might be a bigger issue in the integrated writing task because that's a more formal type of writing. But what I'm telling you now is, just to be safe, don't use the contractions in either. That's kind of what I'm saying right now. Alrighty? Anyway, so to recap, the first answer to your question, you should pause, we pause, all native speakers need to pause. We pause after designated thought groups. Again, you can learn more about thought groups and pausing in my TOEFL pronunciation lessons 41 through 44. To answer your second question, I would advise you not to use contractions during the independent or integrated writing tasks. Alright, anyway, thank you very much. I hope I've given you some good information here, and have a great day.